On the impact of animal agriculture and climate change is underway in Nairobi. I understand my colleague Willie Lusige is following up on this event for us and now joins us live for an update. Lusige, good morning. It's great to see you. What's the latest, even as stakeholders contribute to this all-important discussion as we plug into the conversation that's set to happen at the Africa Climate Summit?
Then definitely Kenya, being the host, is trying to plan and bring the whole continent to be able to speak in one voice ahead of that summit. So today we had this pre-conference summit that is happening here at Radisson Blu in Nairobi to be able to discuss all the ways in regard to how to incorporate what we call smart agriculture and prevent what has been termed as climate change effects, because we are aware, or what we have been told here, that the high production of protein, especially keeping of livestock in large scale, has been having a lot of impact in production of a gas known as methane, which is also affecting climate change. So the discussion here today is all about to do with smart agriculture, which can be able to foster a climate-friendly kind of an agriculture and also at the same time lower the high impact on climate change. I want to speak with the person in charge of this. You were the person who was presenting the final agreement and recommendations that will be tabling during that summit. Maybe you can tell us in summary why you had this meeting today, why you had this conference, and the key issues that you have agreed to present during that summit.
Thank you very much. This meeting is actually deliberately designed ahead of the Africa Climate Summit and the week beginning next week from 4th of September to 8th of September, because we think it's an important area of concern that needs to be taken on board the conversations around the climate week. As you may know, for very many years, the climate conversation has been around pushing for just energy transition. That is more focusing on the fossil fuels. But we are saying there is another big culprit that is contributing to climate change, which is factory farming. And therefore, this conversation is really about that, bringing together like-minded organizations who are saying, wait a minute, Africa could be a victim of climate change because most of the greenhouse gas that cause climate change is actually produced by the West. But at the same time, Africa has to take responsibility because we do practice agriculture. And agriculture produced on a large scale is actually a big culprit. So for Africa, 70% of our food comes from smallholders. We are calling that, the smallholder systems be supported financially, morally, politically, etc., especially by the leadership in Africa and the entire world, because Africa does not need to industrialize its food production systems for us to be food self-sufficient. We believe in that very clearly. And in any case, industrialization comes with its own problems. The cost of environmental pollution is not accounted for when you look at the cost of production. And within the environmental cost, you have climate change, you have other costs. So there is a very serious argument that supports what we are trying to do. So we are calling on our leadership in Africa that this summit is one where the leadership for once has to be united. If there is anything that has to unite the African continent, it is our response to the climate crisis. Within that, we must put our money where our mouth is. African leaders must be very clear about the financial architecture that supports agricultural production, because the dependency on external donors to fund our agriculture leaves us no option but to bear the brunt of what their agenda is. So partnerships has to change. The kind of partnership that Africa needs right now is one that allows Africa to be the one that sets the agenda, regardless of our limitations financially, technically, and otherwise. So once again, the pre-African Climate Summit and Week is a deliberate effort of civil society organizations, including World Animal Protection, coming together to brainstorm and look at, one, that there is another culprit, as I've said, which is industrializing our agricultural system, because currently what we witness is that this may not be good for Africa growing to the future. We are mindful that the African population will continue to grow, but that growth may need about 30% increase in productivity to feed ourselves. There is a threat there. Because the more the population increases, the more the tendency that we need to industrialize to respond. And the danger is climate change. The rangelands in northeastern Kenya, the entire north of Kenya, and other parts of Africa are not used in the right way. We are suffering, the animals are suffering, because those systems cannot sustain the animals. What we need to do is to invest in ways and means that can make our rangelands more productive and responsive to the needs of animals. I'm telling you, Africa can feed itself, not necessarily through industrialized systems. Our systems can feed Africa if we support it enough, and that's our call.
Thank you so much. So you have heard, definitely that is the discussion that has been happening here at Radisson Blu. This is a pre-summit, kind of a sitting where they have discussed a lot of things to do with smart agriculture and maybe the way forward in